We just got a brand new camera in, and it is the Sony A7 Mark V. I want to compare the Sony FX3 to the A75 for anyone that's out there that might be on the fence about getting either of these two cameras. So we'll also talk about some of the pros and cons that you get with using either of these cameras, and it might give a little bit of context to you. Why is it that I will be using the Sony A7 Mark V going forward? Now, you might be wondering, why is it that I'm sticking with Sony when there's so many other camera manufacturers right now that have come out with incredible cameras? Within the last year or so, you've got the Canon C50, the R6 Mark III, the Nikon ZR, you also got the Panasonic S1 II, all incredible cameras. So it begs the question, why is it that I'm sticking with Sony, and why am I going from an FX3 to an A75? Now, the choice to stick with Sony really comes down to two things. For me, it's the robust and reliable codec that comes within these cameras that is so easy for me to edit with. And two is the lenses. The unlimited amount of lens choices that you have for the Sony E-mount and ecosystem is crazy. You name it, there's probably a lens for it, and there's a lens for everyone at every price point. And there's so many other cameras that are offering things like RAW and maybe even ProRes recording, and these are all really great. But something that I've personally experienced while editing Sony footage is that it's incredibly easy to digest on my computer. It's great for storage, doesn't take up too much storage, and it also is great for playback on my not old PC, but it's definitely not up to date. Like, my PC can handle it quite easily. And so the choice to stick with Sony is really those two major things. And so for me, I just needed to find a camera within the ecosystem that fits my needs currently. And that's the reason why I'm comparing the FX3 and the A75 to begin with. I don't personally need two cameras at the moment, although I do have two at the moment. That's probably not going to stay that way for very long. I really only need one camera that can kind of do most of the things that I need it to do. And so the choice to switch from the FX3 to the A75 really comes down to these things. So let's talk about some of the things that I'm going to be losing out on if I switch from the FX3 to the A75. I'll no longer have the capability to use shutter angle, which is something that I really like and has been extremely helpful, especially when switching from like 24 frames per second to high frame rates like 60 or 120. Following that same trend of slow motion, I also won't have 4K full frame 120 anymore. Now, the FX3 does have like a 1.1 times crop in 4K 120, but 1.1 times crop is so insignificant that it almost seems like it's no crop at all. Now, I know I said that you'd be losing out on 4K 120 full frame from the FX3 going to the A75, and that's true, but you don't lose out on 4K 120 entirely. You still can do it just with an APS-C size crop. That doesn't bother me a ton because most of the things that I would want to use 120 for usually are going to be from faraway subjects, and so an APS-C size crop might actually help me at times rather than hinder me. So it's something that I could live with, and the most important thing is that if I really needed some type of slow-mo and it to be full frame, I could still do 4K 60. I won't have some of the cine features that the FX3 offers, like tally lights or the XLR top handle, so I couldn't use any XLR microphones on it if I wanted to. I also won't have dual CF Express Type A card slots because the A75 only has one CF Express Type A slot and two SD card slots. And I'll also be getting a slightly slower readout speed on the A75 compared to the FX3. I think the A75 is roughly around 15 milliseconds and the FX3 is around 8 milliseconds. So those are some of the things that I'll be losing out on with the FX3. Let's talk about some of the things that I'll be gaining with the A75. I'll have an EVF now. It's something that I've really missed having. Can be incredibly useful, especially in bright environments or just stabilizing your footage, or just getting a better view at some of the details within your shot. Getting a slightly bigger, slightly higher resolution screen with a new articulating design so you can use it in pretty much any way imaginable. The A7 Mark V is also an extremely comparable photography camera, which is something that I'm looking to gain from my one camera setup, is just having the ability to switch from photo to video and have it be really good on both sides of the spectrum. And the A75 has a 33 megapixel sensor compared to the 12 megapixel sensor on the FX3. And it is a pretty decent camera, and if you're sharing your photos on social media, most people might not even tell the difference. But something I did notice while using the FX3 for photography is that you pretty much have no cropping capability or very little cropping capability. So you really just kind of have to nail it in camera. And while that's great to practice, it is nice to have that flexibility to be able to crop and adjust your photos without having such a drawback. Also, the detail in the images are incredible and great for printing, which is something that I want to do a little bit more for this next coming year. I'll also be getting 30 FPS blackout free shooting, which is something that I've really wanted just because I have wanted to dive more into the photography side of things along with video. And more specifically, I've wanted to dive more into street photography, a little bit of nature photography or wildlife photography, and motorsport photography. And 30 FPS blackout free shooting is really helpful for any of those things because you don't have to see the previous picture that you took as you're taking it, you're seeing it in real time. So you can keep track with subjects that are fast moving. Now, there's nothing wrong with the autofocus in the FX3, but I am getting a significant upgrade in the autofocus category when it comes to the A7V because there's all these new features in it that make it incredibly smart. And from what I can tell, the A7V's autofocus has been great. Something I noticed when I tested the A7V before picking it up was the incredible battery life. I mean, the camera is extremely efficient and it's very noticeable while using it. The FX3 and the A7V, I think, are more alike than they are different, but they do serve two different needs. And in a perfect world, I would probably just keep both of these in all honesty, because they do have things that I like from one another, but both don't have everything that I like. So currently at the moment, I can only really justify having one camera. And so what it really comes down to is the things that I'll need it for. The A7V pretty much does everything I need it to do and some. And the FX3 also does that, but there are some things that I would be gaining from the A7V compared to the FX3. And that's essentially why I think the A7V is going to be my camera for this year. And something I didn't even mention is the price discrepancy between these two cameras. So the FX3 is a $4,300 camera if you're buying it new, and the A7V is $28 or $2,900, which is an incredible value. Hopefully this helped clear some things up and give you a little bit more context onto why is it that I'm switching to the A7V, and if you are on the fence as well, what camera system might be better for you. If there's anything I left out, don't hesitate to let others know in the comments section below. That might help make an informed decision on what you might want to use for this coming year. Yeah, and if you have any questions about anything that we talked about today, just let me know. I will do my best to answer in the comments section below. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Love you guys. Talk to you later. Bye.